Good morning, and welcome to Redeemer Lutheran Church. I'm Pastor Gary Lodeholt. Probably most of us have favorite Bible verses, and what I have noticed over the years is that mine change from time to time. Verses that spoke to me very powerfully at one point in my life, I now find hardly speak to me at all, and I've forgotten about them. Meanwhile, other verses I never noticed before are avenues of discovery and richness all of a sudden. I don't think that's a shortcoming of the Bible. Rather, I think that reflects my own growth and change. I'm different, and so that means that what speaks to me and what things mean to me are different. Having said that, there's one passage that has stuck with me for a long time, and the more I read it and think about it, the more I find there. That passage is Philippians 4:4-8, and in it Paul presents some guidance to the Philippians for how to live as a Christian, or maybe what the Christian life lived looks like. I'm calling it the Philippians Formula, and this week we're going to spend some time with it verse by verse to see its challenges, its assurances, its promises, and its hope. Today we begin with verse 4, which says, "Rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I will say rejoice." There are two key words in this passage, and the first one makes this an easy, happy verse. Rejoice means things like to exult, to celebrate, to have joy, to delight in, to have glory in. It's a happy word, implying that we are caught up in exuberant exhilaration and joy at something. What Paul means here is that we are to have that kind of joy in God and what God has done for us in Christ Jesus. I mean, just imagine, the God of the entire cosmos cares for and loves us and gave his Son to die for us. That's a reason for exhilaration, to be sure. Unfortunately, I don't always see that among us. Martha Sheely loves to tell the story of that time she was getting the acolytes ready for worship, and she asked me if there was anything special happening that day. I looked back and said, yes, God is going to be here. And sometimes I do think we take that for granted and get complacent about worship. As someone said many years ago, we aren't so much God's chosen people as God's frozen people. The Christian life is one of joy. Joy at God's love and grace. Joy at the incredible gift of Jesus. Joy that God walks with us daily. The other important word in that verse is typically the one that troubles us. Always. Rejoice in the Lord always, Paul says. But you and I can both think of times in our lives when rejoicing has been hard to do. A loved one dies. Something we hoped for doesn't pan out. A family crisis or division where forgiveness is hard to ask or to give. These and so many more situations are times when we feel far from rejoicing. But you see, there's a difference in being happy and rejoicing. What Paul means is that even in those difficult, unhappy situations, there is still a call to rejoice because you belong to God. As deep and as dark as our difficult times get, God does not forsake us. So we may not feel happy, but deep down we can still rejoice because we can still trust in God. God has claimed us, and God will never let us go. That kind of rejoicing doesn't bubble out, but it abides in us and with us, and it is the rock we can cling to. Rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I will say, rejoice. After all, there is something special going on today. God is here. Thanks for watching, and remember to let this day belong to God.